right. So in front of me, I have Demeka Fields. She is a attorney in sports and entertainment law. She's counsel in the global sports marketing data privacy at New Balance. Demeka, welcome. We are honored to have you in our presence. We're super excited to get this interview started and celebrate you while you are here, give you your flowers while you are still here with us. And yes, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm super excited. Hopefully I can drop some nuggets that'll be useful to somebody.
Absolutely. I mean, you just being here is useful to somebody. So we are excited. This is going to be fantastic. And let's get into it. So to start off, really easy. What are 3 words that describe Demeka Fields?
So I had to think about this really hard. The top 3 words that came to mind, I would say determined, resilient, and then empathetic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And why? You got to explain.
I know. I was like, wait, do I need more?
Yes. You have to explain.
So I would say determined. My family and friends would be like, yeah, that's definitely her. I think I just have these like big, crazy ideas, whether it's like run a marathon or study abroad and just like leave or do some crazy competition or skydive. And then once I have it, it's just like, okay, go. Like, this is what we're doing. It's just like, it's going to happen. So even with my crazy ideas, I would say determined is one. Resilient, let's say life. Life is hard, right? Life gets hard sometimes, right?
Yes.
You know?
Yes, absolutely.
Things come out of nowhere. And so, like I've had those things happen. It's just like, okay, you know, you can have your day, you can have your week, but then it's like, okay, we got to get up. We got to keep going. Like, if this is not going to work out, how do we pivot? And how do we get like to the next step? Like, if this is what you're going to do, you know, we just got to figure it out. And I think that's just one of the things I live by is just like, okay, we're going to figure it out. So
I love that.
Would be one. And then I think empathy, being empathetic is another, which I think is major just in how I like choose to live my life. With so many things that I've been through, like, right, when I'm going through them, I am not thanking God, like, thanks for putting me through all of this. I'm
right.
Like,
what is happening?
Right. I'm like, what is this life? But once you get through it, you know, there's so many people I feel like I can relate to because I've been there. So I'm always against like passing judgment, but I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, I have been there or I've been in a similar situation. So I get how you're feeling.
Absolutely.
And even if people say like, oh, I can't believe you did that. It's like, but realistically, we have all been there. And if you haven't, like, keep living, you probably will. So those are my 3 words: empathetic, determined, and resilient.
I love that. I love it. And I love how you explained it because honestly, this past year alone, and we'll kind of get into it a little bit later, it's been a lot. It's been like, it's been crazy. So much. It's been so much. And that's real. And you have a really great attitude about it because a lot of people, I mean, don't always have the same attitude and optimism. So there's that. Now you, ma'am, have had an incredible career. I did my little research, did a little things, you know, but you've had an incredible career thus far. And you've had stops including the New Orleans Saints, the Minnesota Vikings, and now you're at New Balance and you continue to climb, doing phenomenal work. Can you tell us about the work that you do at New Balance? Because I'm just intrigued. I don't know. It seems like sports organizations in particular are like this big castle with like you're just looking up and you're like, okay, what do they do over there? Like, how do you get in there? You know, like, so New Balance, phenomenal company. What are you doing there? And please tell the people like the inside scoop.
Yeah, so New Balance, I'll say I've only been in New Balance for 4 months now.
Okay.
So it is really new. I was at the Vikings before. And so if you would have told me last year this time that I was going to be working for like a fashion footwear company, I was like, no, I'm not a sneaker girl. I'm becoming one, but I am like 4 or 5 inch heels every day. Like, that's just how I live. And so getting like New Balance reaching out to me and saying like they're looking for a sports specific attorney. I'm like, okay, let's just see what that is.
Right.
Like, I can stay in sports, but what does this mean? And so finally, like getting hired, starting with the team, I'm like, okay, so I am the only sports attorney and anything
Wow.
sports related runs through me, which I feel
Wow.
the same way. I'm like, wow, because
Whoa.
I'm like, sometimes like, y'all, I really don't know if I know what I'm doing, but I'm glad you all trust me.
Yeah.
And so it's just athletes, you know, you have like Kawhi Leonard and Coco Gauff are bigger athletes. We recently signed Jamal Murray, which is already out, but we haven't done like our huge announcement yet. We do marathons because New Balance is like primarily known as a running shoe. So we do like the New York Marathon, London Marathon, Rotterdam Marathon. So we're big in that. And then we're signing tennis players, and we're international soccer, which is one sport that I looked at, right? If it's on like Sports Center, I'll look at it. But now I'm like really into it because that's a really, really big market.
Absolutely.
And so it's like signing these athletes, then working with these teams, signing different teams across different sports.
Wow.
It's just all over the place. And then we work with some colleges sometimes. So I do those deals too. But it's just like, okay, we're doing a collection with Coco, or we're doing Kawhi's new shoe, or we're doing all these things. A lot of times, if not 100% of the time, I'm going to have my fingers on it because it's dealing with the athlete, and I just kind of help manage those relationships. So
absolutely,
there's a lot going on, which I would never.
Yes. You have your fingertips on everything.
Yeah, everything.
Literally everything. And that's so cool, though. That's so cool. That's such a responsibility. But like, it's not just one sport per se.
Yeah.
You know, you get that variety, and you get to kind of tap into different markets and be able to see how they move, and they get to express, you know, how they want things done and how it will, you know, make waves in their own sector and things like that, like basketball to soccer to running to this to that. Like, that's amazing.
You know, it's super different from being in football, where it's just like football and everything runs with the football schedule, which is great. Right. But now it's like, okay, tennis starts here. So we need to do everything leading up to tennis. And now the soccer season starts here. Then football. So it's just like always go, go, go. And it's been different, but it's been really cool because I like all sports. So it's like, okay, now definitely. I can tap into these other sports that I did before.
And I bet you get to travel a lot. Well, I guess when the world kind of opens back up, you'll be able to travel quite a bit.
I'm hoping so. That is one thing. I'm like, all this stress y'all have put me through these last 4 months. Where's the plane ticket?
Max, I want VIP access.
So literally, I'm trying to get to Wimbledon if we can make that happen.
Maybe slide in 2 passes for friends.
Right.
And I'll be there. Like,
literally.
That's so cool. Now, did you always want to work in sports and entertainment law? Like, please talk to us about your journey and how you got to do this work. And do you have any advice to offer to young women coming behind you? So kind of a 2-parter. I guess you can answer the first part first. So did you know you want to do all this stuff in sports and entertainment law? Like, did you always want to do this?
So I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. And then I kind of said I wanted to be a businesswoman, which is why I did business management at Howard. But I worked for 2 years. And while I was working, something just sparked like, okay, go to law school. And so I was like, okay, like I said I was going to go, and then kind of got away from it. And then it was just like, okay, go to law school. So I was like, okay. And so I had a really good job with Ford as a marketing manager. And I just thought to myself, if you're going to quit your job, which my family was like, my mom's always supportive, but my family was like,
hey, they give you that look.
Like, you got a job, you got perks, you got benefits. Like, why quit? And I was like, no, I want to do sports law. So, took the LSAT, applied to only 3 schools that had sports law programs because I knew like this is the only way I'm gonna go. And I got into the 3, and I just chose Tulane. They have like a really big sports law program.
Okay.
Really big alumni, and that I think has made all the difference. But decided to go to Tulane, and I'm super blessed. I don't think it always works out like that, but super blessed to work with the NBA retired players and the Saints, and then the Vikings.
Yes.
And so the Vikings started off as a summer internship, And
Wow.
the last day, my boss, who's now the Big Ten commissioner,
Wow.
he asked me, he's like, so what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to stay. So I had always planned to like try to make it a full-time gig, make it long term. And they just kept telling me the whole time, like, there's no positions. And I don't think there were. But he asked me and I said, all right, let's go. I'm going to stay. So he gave me a week to go to New Orleans, pack up my stuff. I put it in storage. Thank you to my friends who helped me out. And I flew back and it was like, okay, let's go. So like short story, I interned for a year, lived in a hotel, made crazy intern pay, which was like $10 an hour. I think it's higher now. Ooh. So being like an attorney licensed, $10 an hour, we were struggle. It was a super struggle.
I can only imagine.
Like, wow. And then I interned another year, but was like, okay, started giving it a timeline. Like, all right, I need things to shake because, you know, I'm providing for myself. I ended up getting a second job, trying to help my family, right? No one to really depend on. So you're like, okay, it has to shake eventually, or is it worth it? But gratefully it did. They made me take the bar exam again. So I took the bar, the Minnesota bar, and then started as chief of staff for our COO, which was great. And then became counsel and got to see and touch everything. And I think that just helped me learn the business of sports, how a team works, right? And then you get into this New Balance gig, which kind of came out of nowhere. But it's like, okay, I know contracts, right? On time. And like I said, super blessed because people are losing jobs.
Absolutely.
I was able to get one and get like a promotion. So I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, it was a really windy path. And I always tell people, I'm like, it's paying off now. But it was a super grind. I feel like the past 3 to 4 years were just like crazy. And now that it's paying off, I'm really, really grateful. But definitely have to pay your dues, right?
For sure.
Put in some work.
That's a word. I think a lot of times people think it's just going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. No. It's not going to happen overnight. You got to keep working, keep connecting, keep just moving in your purpose and like, you know, hoping for the best, knowing that sometimes things will crumble and fall apart and you'll have to like, you know, pick up the pieces and start over and be able to move and shift and be flexible. Like that's life. That is definitely life for sure. Do you have any advice to offer to young women who are coming behind you, you know, that are going to see this interview and be like, I want to be Demeka. How did I get there? I want to be her now.
Yeah, I would say get away from the microwave mentality. Like you said, like that things are going to happen super quickly.
For sure.
It's about being humble and being willing to humble yourself. And if it's something you want, I'm not telling everyone take the $10 job, but I definitely do think there's something that comes along with grinding and putting in the time and being willing to, and being willing to do those things that, you know, like my second job, I was like helping empty trash and stuff at soccer games.
Wow.
And like my coworkers would come to the game and not even recognize me because I was like dressed down.
Wow.
Like, and stuff, right? But it's just like, okay, so what is the end goal? So I think like being willing to put in the work, put in the time and grind, and then just being open to different opportunities. Like I had to move to Minnesota, which I wasn't super hype about, but I was like, all right, opportunity, let's go. And now I'm moving to Boston, which is another cold city, which was Boston was not at the top of my list, but for the opportunity, I'm like, you know what? Let's go, right? Like, I'm not gonna like put myself in a constraint and say only these cities, only these places. It's just like, okay, let's make it work. Let's see, like, let's explore. So those are my two things.
I love that. I know you're probably holding on to the warmth of Louisiana, like from going from Minnesota to Boston, like, woo. I lived in Philly the past 2 years and I thought Philly was cold, but you have 2 up on me. So
it's like -3 right now.
Absolutely not.
What is that?
I'm in the DMV now. It's 35 and it's cold. And I just, I don't know anymore.
Summer, right?
Summer, where are you? Are you coming soon or no? But, I love that you have such a fantastic attitude. I can just feel your energy, which is just so great to hear because, this past year alone, it's been a lot to say the least, right? We've had a pandemic, we've had social injustices, we've had the election, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, it has been exhausting. It's been draining, it's been exhausting. But how are you doing? What drives you to get through the day despite all that's going on?
Yeah, so I will say, first of all, like all my family and friends have been healthy and for the most part. So I think that's a blessing during this time when
Absolutely.
there's so much going on.
Yes.
But like mentally and physically, I think working out, I work out 5 days a week. And
Okay.
that has helped. And I work out in the mornings. We work like 6, but that has like helped me, right? Like I have a workout partner and just seeing him just like, okay, at least I have someone that I'm seeing in contact. Like, let's get the day going. I
Yes.
think that's been major for me and like eating really
Absolutely.
healthy and losing weight, right? So it's just like, okay, I feel good even though I wear sweats all the time and never look like
Over
this
for
ever.
sure. For sure. It's like half up is cool and then the bottom half is like, it is.
Yeah. Right. And so I think that has really helped me. And then I think new beginnings for me right now is like the drive. Like, okay, like I'm getting ready to move to Boston. I'm getting ready to really step into this role when I get to actually be in the office. And like, what is that going to look like? And there's so many new things coming.
For sure.
That has really driven me. And then just talking to my friends and family, like my accountability group and talking to my mom and my brother and my grandparents and doing the family group calls, like just being connected to the people that are going to always push me and just make me smile. That has been like the key to getting through. It's just like, okay, but I have my people that I can talk to.
Absolutely.
We're going to make sure I'm okay.
Yes. Yes. I think you have a choice, right? During this time, you can choose to kind of sulk and be, like in a state of loss constantly, and in a state of anxiety and sadness and all of that, or you can choose to kind of step over here and make lemonade with the lemons you've been dealt. And it sounds like you've been making quite a lot of lemonade, so that is great, and I'm happy for you. Kind of pivoting a little bit. Now, this year alone, right, we've seen a significant, just a lot more of a push for diversity and inclusion. And as we strive for more racial equity, how important is this intersectionality to you as a Black female sports and entertainment attorney? How are you highlighting these intersections in the work that you currently do?
So I think it's twofold. I think I'm always like, okay, just showing up and being in the room for me is major. I think Black attorneys make up like 5% or less
something
of
crazy,
all attorneys. It's something crazy. I'm just like, wait, what? How did that even happen? So I think I'm New Balance's like first Black attorney, which is not surprising. Wow. And it's just like, okay, so being here, I work with mostly white men and then a lot of people overseas. So like just being in the room, it's just like, okay, we can do this. Like we're qualified. We have these attributes and whatever we need to be in this job. So just being there, I think helps, right? When we get to see people in different positions. And then I think it's just these projects, these little projects that I like to get involved with and helping them come to fruition with like authenticity is big for me. So if it's like recruiting at HBCUs and it's like, okay, I went to Howard, like I don't speak for all HBCU students, but I know more about the experience than someone who doesn't even know what that stands for, right?
Right.
Like that, or like New Balance has been working with a small family-owned business that works with D9 groups. And so being part of a Divine Nine group, it's like, okay, I can give that experience, right? And mine is different from the other 8, but still it's like, okay, but I know about this world. Let's make sure this is authentic and we're giving back to these organizations and we're doing fellowships and we're doing, so it's like whatever we're going to do that can affect my people. Like I want to be part of it because I want to be authentic, and then I want to push to make it bigger than it necessarily is, right? I think that's like a huge thing. Like, let's hold feet to the fire.
Absolutely.
Right? That's like, if we're all about diversity now, well, let's get money to these groups, do internships, and not just give millions of dollars to these random causes that you have no tie to.
Right.
Like we need to hold ourselves responsible to make sure we know where the money is going and give people a chance. So I think it's being in the room, but then making sure, like, if you're in the room, make your voice heard, push these things to make sure that they're happening, and they're happening in a really, really big way. And so I think that's how I try to explore that cross section. And then, of course, our situations and what we've been through are different from other people in the room. So, right, I add some light, and maybe you didn't think about it this way, but, this is another way to think about it that we should probably take into account. So
that's real.
Types of ways, but
absolutely
what I'm trying to do.
Absolutely. I mean, let's shake the table. Let's put some action behind the statement that we've seen, right? Let's put some action behind it. Let's put some movement. Let's get this going. Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you are the first, right? Which I did not know. You were the first Black woman in this position at New Balance. Like, do you feel supported in this male-dominated industry? I mean, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, so I think now that this is like my second position after law school, I'm not too surprised, right? I think now at the Vikings, I started off as an intern, and you have imposter syndrome, and I'm really like dealing, like, I don't know much, but I've gotten in this position. I'm trying to represent well. Right. But now in my second job, I'm like, okay, like I put in work, and maybe I'm the youngest. I'm like 5 or 6 years younger than everyone. So I'm the baby. Fine. But it's just like, but I put in work, and it's like, okay, now, like, I worked hard to get here, right? I worked hard to get here. I know what I'm talking about. I still have so much to learn. Absolutely. But it's like, I worked hard and put in my time to get here. So it's just like, okay, I'm working with all men, all white men. It's like, all right, I'm kind of used to it. It's like, all right, let's keep going. My boss is great. Everyone's been really, really supportive. But I also know, like, I have my experiences to stand on. Like, yeah, maybe you don't believe me, but I've done this, this, and this. So I know what I'm talking about, right? And
for sure.
That, I think, is big.
I love that. I mean, you are confident within yourself, because imposter syndrome is real, especially when you're the only, especially when you are new in these spaces, and, you're qualified, but everyone has that self-doubt that's kind of, sometimes eats away at us, even if we know that we're qualified and we have, like, our stats are good, like everything's adding up. Right. So, it's great that you feel more comfortable in this role and are doing it. Now, you have a great background, and you are a Howard alum. How has your HBCU education kind of prepared you for these experiences and these instances that you're having now? I've also seen that, with this push for more diversity and inclusion, we've had more conversations about HBCUs than I've ever seen in my life. Demeka, I'm just sitting here like, oh, like y'all, like y'all actually bringing this up. Like, we're actually seeing this. I mean, and as we know, like, our new vice president is Howard alum, and it's, again, shaking the table with Black women, with HBCUs and education and all of that, and the significance with it. So I'd love to kind of hear your take on how your HBCU experience shaped who you are and has prepared you for what you're doing now.
Yeah. So one thing about being at Howard, right, and people always have their opinion about Howard grads, and we're always right. It's absolutely true. But I think my thing that I took away from Howard is just everyone is just so great. Like, everyone's doing such great things, and that is just what is expected. So when I look at LinkedIn or something like that, I'm looking at like my classmates, people that went to Howard while I was there. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this person's doing this person's doing that. Like, not comparing, but you're just like, wow, like, I am so proud of them. And if they're doing something big, like, I know I can do something big, and I need to, like, step it up, and I need to look for opportunities because they're out there.
Right.
And so I think that's one big thing of seeing so many people that look like you, where excellence is like the standard, like, oh yeah, we'll be the first this, or yeah, I know we're gonna do this, or we're this VP or whatever. You're just like, oh, okay, so that's what we're doing. All right. So I need to get in line. Like, I need to make sure my stuff is in order. So I think that is just like so encouraging. And then I think, you learn how to present, you learn how to sell yourself, you learn how to always be on. And I don't know if all students get that opportunity before they go into the corporate world, right? But one thing at HBCUs at Howard, we have our intro. We're always going to have our intro. It's like down packed. We're wearing suits. We're wearing suits like 4 days a week. At some point, people like wearing suits more than they like wearing like casual clothes. It's like, oh, I'm so
wow.
Like, that's the thing. Everyone's always dressed up. You just learn.
It is a fashion show,
right? It's definitely
for sure.
It's a fashion show, right? But then to be able to back up how you look with like how you present yourself and what you're able to contribute. I think that is so big and it's just so powerful. And then you look at our alum, like you have Kamala, which is great, but then you have your Debbie Allen and your Thurgood Marshall and Rashad and all these people. You're just like, these people are so amazing, and I just know there's more to come. So it's just kind of like that standard of excellence, like, oh, like, okay, they went to Howard. Totally makes sense. Like, let me just add them to the list.
For sure.
I think that just being around that type of energy and seeing those people, I think really prepares you for the real world. You know how to present yourself. You know how to like raise the standard. You know how to deliver when they ask you to deliver something. And I think that's major.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sitting here just listening, like HBCUs. I don't know, like both my father and my brother and many family members have gone to HBCUs, and I don't know exactly what you were saying. It's infectious, the energy, the presentation, the excellence, everything on the list is just, it's up to par. So I don't know. As we have more conversations around HBCUs, it'll just be kind of interesting because I love that HBCUs are getting more love, getting more funding, getting more visibility that they definitely deserve. But for me, what sticks out the most is the storied history, the names that you're listing off, right? The phenomenal people that are coming from these institutions and doing great things. Now, speaking of history, this particular interview will air during Women's History Month, a month that oftentimes does not highlight Black women enough and the beautiful intersections that we offer. When you think of celebrating Women's History Month, what stands out in your mind that is part of our history that you can relate to?
So I thought this was a good question. I'm like, okay, let me go back in the history books.
I mean, you just listed off some phenomenal women like 2 minutes ago.
Okay, I thought about it. I'm like, okay, so being a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, the first thing that I thought of, I'm like, okay, historical, was Delta participating in the women's suffrage movement. And that's so major to me because I think it just represents Black women and what we always deal with as a whole, right? We're walking in a movement that we know when it is actually passed, right? When women can vote and women are really well represented, it's not going to come to us first.
Right.
We know that, but we took the time to be organized and to show up. And I feel like Black women are always showing up. We took the time to show up, be there, and know that even once the majority gets what they're fighting for, we're going to have to continue to fight harder. And we didn't shy away from it. It's like, okay, we know it's not going to hit us first, but we're still going to go out there and represent. And then when you all get what you want, we're still going to be on the front lines representing to make sure that whatever you all get eventually comes to us. And we're going to make sure
absolutely.
And I think that's what we're always doing, right? Women's History Month, I think, is really, really major, but I always talk about being a Black woman, right, during Women's History Month, because it's so different. Right? Like the Women's History Month, I'm like, okay, that's big, but Black women history is completely a separate thing, you know?
It is.
And I'm like, we gotta start recognizing Women's History Month is cool, but it's like we need to highlight what other people are going through, because once fair pay, equal pay comes down or something, it's like, okay,
absolutely,
you might get equal pay at the top, not diverse, but then how long is it going to take to get to your Black woman,
to trickle down?
Right. And that's another fight in itself that sometimes people forget, like, oh, we have fair pay. That fair pay didn't come to us, right? We got to fight for y'all, with y'all, for fair pay. And then once y'all get your fair pay, we got to continue to fight, because we don't know who's going to keep fighting for us.
Right.
You know?
That's real. Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
That's why I'm like, women's suffrage march, I'm like, yeah.
There's definitely levels for sure. I mean, just the intersections, just the ability to not only acknowledge equity but act on it, right, is so crucial. And it's sad. You've mentioned a fantastic statistic, but Black women are amongst the most educated group in the world, really, and we get paid like the least. So there's just so many disparities, and Women's History Month is great, but I think the acknowledgement for intersections has definitely have to come, because there's Black women, right? There's Asian women, there's Latinx women, there are trans women, LGBTQ plus, like so many different levels and layers, and they're amazing. But you can't just stick to one. It's not a monolith, right?
Right.
So many fantastic experiences that are unique to our culture as a whole. So I'm definitely, obviously, I am on par with you. We are in tandem. We are there. We're here for sure. Now, my last question before we get into some quick fire questions for you is, what do you want your own legacy to be? What is next for Demeka Fields?
Yeah, so I was thinking about that. I'm like, okay, I just started a new job 4 months ago. So what's next for me, next few years, is really exploring that job, and not just what it said on paper. So I love the sports part, right? But I want to, let's learn more about the marketing piece and what they're doing, and talking to the agents. So I think expanding my position as much as possible to really gain like a big understanding of this industry, which I don't know a lot of. I don't know the sneaker industry, or the sports industry. So growing my knowledge in that in the next few years is big. And then my personal legacy, there are a few things that come to mind that I always want to be known for, and I hope is the case. One is being authentic, and whatever I do, just making sure that I'm authentic in the way I do it, and not trying to be anyone else, but it's like, okay, that's Demeka, right? Like, that's who she is. The Boosie quote, I kind of move, like, that's who she is.
Put that Boosie quote back in the frame. Put that Boosie quote back in the frame.
I'm like, that authenticity is so big, and people can tell when you're authentic.
Absolutely.
And when you're not. So that's one thing. Another thing is not letting anything get in my way. So who knows where I'll be 10 years from now, but I'm hoping that I continue to be adventurous and continue to take opportunities and run with them, and not let the troubles that come, because there are always going to be troubles, not let them get me down or get in my way, but like, no, like, I saw it, did it, conquered it, let's keep moving. And then the last thing I would say is just making sure to always help those that are coming behind me, help those even above me, like always lending a helping hand. I know I wouldn't have got where I am without people helping me and looking out for me. And so I never want to get so out of touch, or, you get so high where people start forgetting where they come from, and they act like they've never struggled. It's like, it's my duty and like a responsibility to make sure I help those who reach out to get where they would like to go as well.
I love it. Thank you so much. You said, I hope I dropped some gems. Well, you dropped plenty of gems.
Oh, thank you.
You dropped all the gems on this Monday. Okay.
Right. Monday.
Just FYI, y'all, she is here on a Monday after work doing it, dropping all the gems. So thank you so much for all of your insight and just being here and representing. So now we're going to move into some quick fire questions.
Okay.
Super chill, right? It's a this or that format based on this interview. Now you have to answer in one sentence or less, or one word or less. So you can't overthink it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. What's your favorite sports deal that you helped to broker?
Super Bowl Entertainment 2018. Just major.
That's fun. Okay. Warm weather or cold?
Warm weather. Warm.
I could tell. Favorite city you've lived in?
New Orleans.
Okay. Nola.
Yeah.
Hope I can get there as soon as COVID's over. Like, because I know Mardi Gras is coming up and people are just like,
I know. I can't believe it.
I don't know. What's your favorite sports team?
I'm gonna say Lakers because I'm a LeBron James fan. So.
Okay, I can appreciate that. I feel like everybody is a LeBron James fan. Like,
I've been a LeBron James fan since he was in high school. He was with the Irish, so I'm just like, okay,
all right,
but
I can give you that. I can give you that. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Stay encouraged. I think stay encouraged. It will always get better.
Absolutely. Yes. Optimism. I love it. What's your first place that you're going post COVID? Like, not while we're at now, because some people are acting like it doesn't exist, but like when it's actually, you can go outside, no mask, you're just free air, breathing just out.
Ooh, Thailand. I had a trip to Thailand that was canceled.
Oh,
I am ready. Yes,
I love it. In Thailand, the weather's amazing. So yes, get to some heat. Now, what would you be doing if you weren't an attorney?
Is this a one? Can I do two?
Sure. Okay. It's your last question, so sure.
So I would either be a stylist because I'm all about the fashion and all that, or I would say like an event planner.
Okay.
I love planning things and extravagant things, probably people would say, but I would love to do that. It's like, okay, you can do anything you want. I say, all right, like, let's go. Let's end these events and let me style people and live that life. So
that's so cool. I mean, I miss events just in general. So yes, I feel that on an extra level right now. But all jokes aside, thank you so much for taking the time out to be with us, Demeka. You were amazing. The work that you're doing is phenomenal. And I cannot wait for this interview to come out so people can feel the same way that I'm feeling and feel inspired and just feel so optimistic. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm going to stop.